You know what's wild? I left the Amish community 4 years ago because I wanted freedom from extreme traditional gender roles, and now I'm watching millions of women on TikTok voluntarily choosing to live a lifestyle that's somehow even more restrictive than what I escaped. They call themselves Tradwives, and TikTok cannot stop fighting about them. I'm Eliza, an ex-Amish girl from Pennsylvania, and I need to talk about the 7 marriage rules these Tradwife influencers are promoting that have the internet absolutely losing it. Because I actually lived a version of this life, and I can tell you what nobody else is saying. Rule number 1, and this is the one that gets the most attention: complete submission to your husband. Now, when I was Amish, we believed in headship order. The man is the head of the household. You submit to his decisions. But here's the difference. In my community, it was rooted in religious conviction that everyone genuinely believed. These TikTok tradwives are packaging submission as empowerment and calling it a choice, which is fascinating because you can't choose to give up your choice and call that freedom. Influencers like SD Williams literally say on camera, "We believe we should submit to our husbands and serve our husbands and family." And then in the same breath, they say they're not trying to take away what women fought for. You can't have it both ways. Rule number 2, and this one's huge. Your purpose is to be a homemaker, not a wife who also keeps a home. A homemaker. That's your identity, your value, your entire reason for existing. Now, I grew up in a world where women's roles were cooking, cleaning, childcare, gardening, canning, sewing. But here's what these TikTok tradwives don't show you: that life is brutally hard. I watched my mother's hands crack and bleed from washing laundry by hand in winter. I saw her exhausted every single night after cooking 3 meals from scratch, tending the garden, managing 6 kids, and keeping a spotless house. And you want to know the difference? She didn't have a choice. These influencers do. They're choosing this aesthetic while making thousands of dollars posting about it on social media. Rule number 3, and this is where it gets really messy: financial dependence on your husband. The tradwife ideology says women shouldn't work outside the home, shouldn't have their own income, should rely entirely on their husbands for money. When I was Amish, this was just reality. Women didn't have bank accounts, didn't control finances, but I also watched what happened when things went wrong. I knew women trapped in abusive marriages because they had no money, no credit history, no way to leave. And the tradwife influencers promoting this, they're making their own money. Ballerina Farm, one of the biggest tradwife accounts, has nearly 10 million followers. That's serious income. Alexia De La Rosa admitted on the Tamron Hall show that she makes enough from content creation to pay all the bills. So they're preaching financial dependence while being financially independent. You see the problem? Rule number 4, embrace 1950s gender aesthetics. The dresses, the aprons, the perfect hair and makeup while baking sourdough. Look, I get it. It's visually appealing, it's calming content, but it's also deeply dishonest. Nara Smith makes Coca-Cola from scratch in a pristine kitchen wearing designer clothes. That video has 32 million views, but that's not homemaking, that's performance. Real homemaking is repetitive, exhausting, and nobody's filming it because it's not cute. It's doing dishes 3 times a day, every day for decades. It's scrubbing toilets and folding laundry and wiping counters over and over and over. The aesthetic is a lie. Rule number 5, and this one really gets me: no career ambitions outside the home. I knew I wanted to be a teacher from the time I was 12, but in the Amish world, that wasn't an option. Women don't go to college, don't pursue careers. I left partially because I wanted education, wanted to use my brain for something beyond domestic tasks. And now I'm watching college-educated women like Hannah Neeleman, who was studying at Juilliard, had a whole future ahead of her, give it all up to have 8 kids and milk cows on a farm. And people are calling it empowering. But here's the thing: she had a choice. Most women throughout history didn't. And there's something deeply uncomfortable about privileged white women choosing to return to a time when women had no options while calling it liberation. Rule number 6, have as many children as possible. In Amish communities, birth control is forbidden. Large families are expected. I'm one of 7 kids. My mother had 9 pregnancies. It destroyed her body and her mental health, but she didn't have a choice. These tradwife influencers are choosing to have 6, 7, 8 kids and romanticizing it. What they don't show is the reality: the physical toll, the loss of identity, the sheer exhaustion. Hannah Neeleman told the Sunday Times that she doesn't even identify with the tradwife label, which is interesting because her entire brand is built on it. And people noticed in that interview that she seemed tired, almost trapped. There's a whole conversation happening now about whether she's actually happy or just performing happiness for the camera. And rule number 7, the one that might be most dangerous: present this lifestyle as the answer to modern feminism. The tradwife movement is explicitly anti-feminist. They position themselves as the alternative to girl boss burnout culture. And honestly, I get why that's appealing. Modern feminism told women they could have it all, career and family, and then left them drowning trying to do everything with no support. But the answer isn't to run backwards to an era when women had no rights. The answer is to fix the system that makes it impossible to have both. Here's what I know from actually living a traditional life. It works when it's genuine, when it's rooted in real community and shared belief, and when both people are truly committed. In Amish marriages, yes, there's a hierarchy, but there's also mutual respect. Decisions get discussed. Women have real power in their sphere. It's not perfect, but it's authentic. What I'm seeing from Tradwife influencers is different. It's a performance of traditional life, funded by modern capitalism, promoted on platforms that wouldn't exist if women hadn't fought for the right to have voices in public spaces. And here's the part that really bothers me. There's now a growing community of ex-Tradwives on TikTok, women who tried this lifestyle and it didn't work. Women like Jenny Gage, who was raised Mormon, got married young, was told to quit college and focus on family. She ended up in an abusive marriage, left the church, and was living in her car. Or Sharon Johnson, a mother of 6 in Utah, who was a Tradwife until her husband got laid off and their entire family dynamic collapsed. These women are sharing their stories, warning others that what looks beautiful on TikTok can be dangerous in reality. Because here's the truth. Financial dependence is a huge risk. Giving up your education, your career, your independence, that's a gamble. And if the marriage ends, if your husband dies, if he loses his job, if he becomes abusive, you're left with nothing. No resume, no work history, no way to support yourself. The TikTok algorithm loves extremes. It loved girl boss culture until that burned everyone out. Now it loves Tradwives. But most of life isn't extreme. Most healthy relationships are somewhere in the middle. Partners who both contribute, who both have autonomy, who make decisions together. That's not as aesthetically pleasing, but it's real. I left the Amish because I wanted the freedom to choose my own path. And what I'm watching with this Tradwife trend is women using their freedom to choose a path that limits freedom. And I just keep thinking, if you really had to live this way, if you couldn't post about it, couldn't make money from it, couldn't leave when it gets hard, would you still choose it? Because that was my reality. And trust me, it's not what the TikToks make it look like.